The mic on? Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. I don't hear you. It's working? Perfect. Okay. 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 I think you can hear me fine. Okay. So, good morning and welcome to the Ocean Pavilion. So, it's my great pleasure to introduce this important side event. So let me first introduce myself. So my name is Gianpaolo Balsamo. So I work at the World Meteorological Organization. So I am a director there and I oversee the climate infrastructure there. So I've been fortunate to present at the Earth Information Day yesterday on the WMO, one of the WMO flagship. But today I'm here as a moderator of this session. So it will be my pleasure to first introduce our session. So the Ocean Pavilion today hosts the all hands on deck engaging non-scientific infrastructure in climate relevant ocean observation. So we have 1 hour for this event. And you know, we know the ocean is a big engine and a big motor of the Earth system, and its vastness needs adequately monitoring system to know the ocean state, not only at the surface but throughout the ocean volume. So I'm fortunately to be joined on the podium by an excellent panel composition. So, and I go forward now introducing briefly our panelists. So the first one is Susan M. El Garabawi. So Susan, welcome. So Susan is the GOOS steering committee. Is part of the GOOS steering committee and is also IOC Africa vice chair. Then we have Mr. Totse Tunua. Apologies for pronunciation, who is from GeoMar and SOOP. And we have with us also Robert Hodenbach from FUGRO, as FUGRO Global Director, Climate and Nature. And then we have Richard Brizus from the Ocean Race. So, and last but not least, we have Markus Müller. So he is the Chief Investment Officer and ESG and Global Head of Chief Investment Office with the Deutsche Bank. So, and it's very, very important that we have this multidisciplinary panel because we are going to talk about the different aspect of what it takes to instrument the ocean adequately in the future. So maybe I will take a few minutes to tell you a little bit about WMO, so the World Meteorological Organization. So WMO is part of the United Nations family, is the specialized organization for weather, climate and water, and with a lot of the environmental monitoring activities also in its premises of activity or its perimeter of activities. We are based in Geneva. So that's our headquarters, and we are about 400 people there. But WMO is in reality the 20,000+ expert group that work with WMO in order to allow us to produce things like the Global State of Climate, which was released as update here at COP29 for 2024, and also to coordinate both the research and the operational aspect of the Earth system monitoring. So in the Earth system monitoring, we have the atmosphere, we have the land, the cryosphere, and we have very, very importantly, the ocean. So the ocean is the recognized Earth system engine. It's 71% of the surface of the planet. It holds 96% of the water of the planet. So when we see from space, the blue planet, we see mainly water. And we know that it's really the engine for the heat, and also it's responsible for absorbing 1/4 of the CO2 emission that we, society, emit for a range of our activities. So it's an ally of human. It's an ally for sustaining life. So it's part of the life support system of the planet. Do we measure and do we monitor sufficiently the ocean? Well, the answer is no, even if there is great effort, and you will hear about from our panelists what is going on in terms of infrastructure. We know that there is more effort needed. And today, in particular, we will cover the effort that can be obtained also engaging with non-scientific infrastructure, so infrastructure that can be operated by a range of technical competencies, not necessarily PhD scientists. So, and it's really very, very important that we locate this activity also in the activity of the WMO. So WMO coordinate availability of observations. Observations are open and accessible to everybody. And it's like that since 151 years. This is how long is the life of WMO. Before it was called IMO, and then since 1945 it took the name of WMO. So coordinating open access is really our primary goal, and in fact is our Resolution 1. If you check Resolution 1 WMO, you will see it's open access, open data access. So we are here to discuss here about innovation, but at the same time we want to channel this innovation through the WMO operating data distribution, which is called WMO Information System, the WIS, WMO Integrated Global Observing System, the WIGOS, and WMO Prediction System, so which is the WIPS. So those are the three infrastructure big chapter in which we serve basically everybody in the world, connected to weather services, connecting to oceanographic services, and making sure that data is freely available. So I spoke yesterday about the Global Greenhouse Gas Watch, which is a new flagship initiative. And we need also to monitor CO2. So it's not enough to monitor only the physical state and the thermodynamics of the ocean. We need also to instrument the ocean to know about the CO2 fluxes and the CO2 absorption capacity in the ocean. If the ocean were to change its CO2 absorption, it will be a very, very big problem for the Earth system. We call those tipping points, so rapid change of the equilibrium of the planet. So not having an observing system, not engaging in private-public partnership, and having enough of a monitoring put us at risk of not being able of detecting those tipping points. So it's enough about me. So it's my pleasure now to with this introduction about WMO and how we are keen to serve the community. It's now time to give space to our panelists. So I will start from the panelist on my left. So it's my pleasure to pass the word to Susan M. El Garabawi. So Susan, the floor is yours, and here the mic. Yep.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and it's my pleasure today to give the talk about the Global Ocean Observing System and what we are doing under this umbrella. As we all know that the ocean plays a crucial role in Earth's climate that support the livelihoods and also the population, providing the food, the pathways for transportation, and also the whole ecosystem. Due to the carbon sink and heat, we had now suffer from those impacts, as we all say, not only for the forecasting and also for the climate actions, affect the ocean health and affect also the blue economy. So to overcome all of this, or to have, we must need this ocean observations and data from the ocean for further prediction and also for hazard warning and climate change globally that is affecting our globe now. However, ocean is vast, process and complex, and no one country or project can cover all of that and to provide enough data to support the global needs. In this response to the urgent need of to increase the ocean observation, GOOS had launched the strategy, or its strategy, in 2019, and aimed to providing the vehicle for designing and building the wide use for this necessary observation and information systems. As we see here, we find the global framework to ensure the observation for the global policy needs, and also we set the specification for essential ocean variables, work on strengthening delivering from all the ecosystem to providers through the best practices and also data and metadata standards, working with the range of beneficiary for ocean information to ensure the governments and the UN know what underpins with weather and with ocean health. GOOS makes the partnership to ensure that ocean data is turned into actionable information. For the essential ocean variables, GOOS has established this framework for critical ocean measurements and also to allow the efficient monitoring of the state and the health of the ocean. Also, we try to measure the physical, biogeochemical, and biological across variables and disciplines for international frameworks and convention, including the UNFCCC. Within each of the three disciplines, we are identifying and setting requirements for the EOV and also developing sampling requirements and implementation strategy. What we are doing is to guide the evaluation and assessment of the system. If you look to GOOS today, we find that GOOS Observing Coordination Group oversees implementation and coordination activities across 13 global observing network and 3 emerging networks. And all of these ocean observing networks are working collaboratively with the OCG and other international observing networks, try to address the system integration and use the new technologies and evaluation of global systems. As we just mentioned, and from our introduction here, that the current structure and funding for the GOOS or for the Global Ocean Observing System is insufficient, even for one country to do it or for the institutions, because we need to provide the data needed to meet the requirements for all the member states and also to increasingly rely on this system for operational forecasting and preserving of ocean health. For this, we find that IOC had governing bodies maintaining the GOOS to expand and evolve to match future needs, and this through the sustainable critical ocean observing infrastructure that's supported by the member states, public sector, and the business sector. Here, when we talk about the opportunities, we need to talk more about the strategic shift towards the top-down approach, which is essential also. And this is an example for what the international organizations like the IOC and the IMO and WMO play this key role for this to develop a new mandatory regulations for the member states to work. Also, the UN Ocean Decade offer this framework of opportunities, and the One Ocean Summit in Preston 2021 called for a civil society and the private marine sectors to start to put their foundation steps. Through, we also need to say that, I will wrap up. We are working together to provide a unified data platform, and also the most important thing is to enable the non-scientific platforms, as you just mentioned, because this is our new idea to work and complement the existing GOOS network like the Argos and the ships, but we must also try to cover the gaps by the helping of the non-scientific structures. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Susan. So it's my pleasure now to invite Toste Tanua from Geomar at the podium. The floor is yours.
So thank you, Gianpaolo. So I'm going to talk about shaping an ocean of possibilities for science and industry collaboration. So you know all this. There's a lot of water out there, and there are a few scientists and few scientific research infrastructure to adequately monitor the ocean. The ocean is getting more and more importance also in economic point of view, and in this statement I'm just going to let it sit there and stand there from the Economist Impact about the role of ocean for economy and also for climate. So we need to do something about this. So we as scientists, I'm a scientist, we have been doing ocean observations and engaging in getting knowledge for decades, many decades, but it's just not enough. We cannot solve the question, we cannot give the answer that we need for a sustainable management of the ocean, a climate safe ocean, and for the blue economy. So we need to scale up what we do, and the way to do that is to work together with businesses. So we see the ocean economy and how this is moving towards the blue economy, and we mean with that an economy that thinks about sustainability of the activities. And feeding the blue economy is what we call a new blue economy. That is the part of blue economy that provides the information that the blue economy needs to be able to make investments and thrive and do the right decisions. So what do we need? What is really missing for this to happen? We have thousands and thousands of ships out there. We have offshore energy. We have fishing boats, pleasure boats. We have structures close to the coast, piers, navigational moorings and stuff like this. What is missing for us to be able to make observations from at least a fraction of this? And here is what I kind of will look at. And we have a current market for ocean observing. So we have standards and platforms, technologies that we need to advance. We need the easy-to-use instruments that can be operated by non-scientists. They have to be easy to use, interoperable, low weight, low power, and they have to be inexpensive. And as Margaret pointed out in the previous session, we don't need the highest quality measurement everywhere all the time. WMO is speaking about the reference network and the comprehensive network. So we are looking at the comprehensive network that fills the gaps in space and time. Then by going towards this road, we're going to create a new market on scaling up. It's all about scaling up. We can all have a research project and equip 10 boats with sensors, but if you want to do that with thousands of boats, we have to find a way to scale up operations. We have to make sure that there is use of the data and that there are business applications, that there are economic drivers towards this. So the SOAP network is shaping, setting standards. We are working with 4 use cases to get started. So one of this is cruise ships, particularly expedition cruise ships. We saw a slide of that before. We're looking at sailboats. We're working with coastal infrastructure like marinas. And we're working on the global south. So we have talked to Pogo and the Pogo network on what the need is of the members of the global south, of cheap and inexpensive instrumentation that they can use themselves. So we are looking at enabling these observations, not to push them down, but enabling and having instruments and infrastructure and support structure for that. One important part of this is what we call OSBK, Open Source Building Kits. So that is an interoperable platform where with one app on your telephone, you'll be able to talk to a range of different instruments and send up the data, and these different ships can actually exchange data freely. So this is Internet of Things, how we can connect different operations in a smart way. If some of you have been on research vessels and you have 10 different instruments and you're going to have 10 different file formats, we want to kind of get rid of that by the OSBK. So to make this happen, we have created this SOAP platform. We are setting up, we have 30 people employed in northern Germany. We're looking at the technology labs. We'll be creating these platform technologies and research infrastructure, reference labs for our industry partners to test their instrumentations. We have the Pioneer Centers where we support all those non-scientists to make the observations. And we have the innovation and business scaling management. So we're really looking at technology transfer, innovation management, have a drive from the business. We're not going to make a 6-year plan for this. This is demand coming from the users of the data, but also for the industry. That's what we're trying to do. Innovation in ocean observing, driving sustainable use of the ocean. So this is the new Shaping an Ocean of Possibility for Science Industry Collaboration platform. And this is one of the drivers to actually be here and talk to you about this. Thank you very much. So now it's Richard. So now I can introduce my Swedish fellow here, Richard Brisius. He is the CEO of the Ocean Race, and we have been cooperating together for a few years now. Richard.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Toste. And yeah, it's been a very good cooperation. We've been pioneering this together. But first of all, talking about pioneering, the first Ocean Pavilion, Rama and team and Margaret and everyone, we've done a tremendous job. This is the 3rd time around, and it's more important than ever to highlight the role of the ocean at this conference. So well done. The School of Hard Arses, someone called us to be part of. We don't give up. And that's the nature of being an ocean racer, that we are very resilient. It's very tough. You race around the world and you race non-stop for day in, day out. I've done the race once, and then they say that you're brave, and then I did it the 2nd time, and then they say that you're crazy. So that's me. But it's been my life, and the ocean is my true passion. And I'm now running the Ocean Race, which has been racing around the world for 50 years, every 4 years. We also run a race around Europe that starts next year in August from Germany and goes through 7 countries in Europe. And then we run a race across the Atlantic called the Ocean Race Atlantic from New York to Barcelona in 26. So we've adopted an always-on concept, not necessarily because we don't have enough to do already, but we think it's urgent that we do everything we can to advocate for the ocean and bring awareness around the ocean. So what we do, apart from racing around the world, which obviously is the core part of what we do, the sports side, we also run a Racing with Purpose activity program. We do a lot around ocean literacy for 300,000 kids in 15 languages around the world. We organize ocean race summits around the world addressing local community matters and also global matters. We've been driving a lot the notion of an ocean rights, acknowledging the inherent rights of the ocean, which is a new mind-boggling idea that we find creates a lot of attraction. And the core of it, I would say, as we talked about before, it's about acknowledging the relationship between humanity and the ocean, because we have lost that connection between, we all spent our first 9 months immersed in water, and that says it all, right? We are water people. That's lost upon us. And specifically the program I'll quickly go through now is the science program. And what we decided to focus on is to try to collect data where our race boats goes, but also other boats. So we go to the edges of the world, and we have found ourselves to be both a very passionate data collector platform, because as an ocean racer, you care for the ocean, you love the ocean, so you really want to do anything possible, but also a very cost-efficient solution, because we go there and we sail very fast, and we're a fleet of boats that crosses a piece of the ocean quite fast in a coordinated way. So what we have become is the most comprehensive science program in any sport, and referring to the 100 so we collect quite a lot of essential ocean data, but importantly we are a coordinator of a number of stakeholders. And talking of the usage of the data, we work with a number of institutions, many of you are represented here today, that is critical, because we gather the data, but the use of the data is the most important factor. So the data finds its way into the relevant databases, and of course the vessels that we're using are the boats that enter our races, and we equip them with high-level sensors. You might call them basic sensors, Toste, but they're very expensive. But if you go to the edges of the world and you get a data point from there, you need to know that the best sensor was used to ever trust it. So we put a lot of effort into having great instruments on the boat. And these are the data points that what we are measuring, essential ocean parameters: oxygen, carbon dioxide, salinity, water temperature, and atmospheric pressure. We provide meteorological data because as a racing sailor, you are very interested in to have very specific and very accurate wind and weather data. So that is just fed straight into the system live. And then we have done a lot of unique measurements of marine microplastics. And over 6 years, we haven't done one sample where we couldn't find plastics, unfortunately. We found 1,800 particles per cubic meter as the most, and 150 particles per cubic meter the least. We're still looking for one place on planet now where we can find a piece of water without any microplastics. We are looking into new parameters, eDNA and so on. We've measured that in the last race, and then we work with other programs, surface drifters that we drop. We also try new instruments like an automated experimental microscope and then we have developed a live hazard reporting system around marine mammals, both to acknowledge where are the mammals and also to alert other boats in the area. So the instruments are meant to be very sturdy, as automated as possible, but there is one person on each boat, the onboard reporter, that runs this. So there's one dedicated person that looks after the instruments. And then they have to consume very little power, because power generation is tricky on these boats. So it's a challenge to build them. We are on version 6 now, I think, in the development. The surface drifters, I mentioned that we work with other organizations to drop surface drifters, and in particular the ones we do in the Southern Ocean are of high interest because very few go there. As we developed a way to visualize the data. This is obviously work in progress for many, and this is where we need to put in a big effort to drive this. And then we also, between our races, we use our instruments to gather more data. So this winter we were twice to Antarctica and all the way down to 72 degrees south in Bellinghausen Sea for 2 months, and we're now analyzing the microplastics data from that. It's going to be very interesting to see what we find. And also this summer we did a very unique voyage through the Northwest Passage with instruments running at non-stop there. So So we are relentless. We don't stop, as we said. But at the core of it, it's the heart and the passion and the brains of the sailors, because they realize that very few people get to see what they see, and they realize this is something wrong, you know. And so whatever we can do to help, we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard. Very, very inspiring to see all this, combination of really fulfilling challenge, racing with helping the planet by having, important observation. So my pleasure now is to introduce Robert Odemak. Please, Robert, the floor is yours.
Sorry to change this a little bit. Thank you for having me, and thank you, Richard, for showing how adventurous the ocean is, and that also counts for the work that we do with Fugro. I think what we heard this morning before from Suze is the importance of the essential ocean variables. Also, we heard from Torsten about the skill that you need. Fugro has been doing this for the last 70 years. We've been mapping the ocean, and we've been contributing that map data to society. When I started out 23 years ago as a hydrographic surveyor, this was mostly in the oil and gas industry. Actually, that was out here in the Arabian Gulf. And we were surveying infrastructure. We were looking at how pipelines were either buried or not buried. If they were leaking a little bit, it was not too problematic because it was not a problem for production. I think we came a long way. We came a long way as society. Fugro came a long way. I came a long way as in my professional career. Now I'm the Global Director for Climate and Nature. Fugro is fully supporting of the transition, energy transition. Fugro is currently supporting the offshore wind industry. 80% of all offshore wind is being built on the data that Fugro provides. But we, apart from seeing a market, there's also contribution that we deliver. So sometimes those are small gestures. For example, when we do an offshore wind project, we give our data, we contribute our data to local fisheries, so they understand what our Met Ocean boys are doing there, and they understand that they can actually benefit from the data that we provide. Sometimes it's bigger. So we provide, in principle, all our data to initiatives like Goose, but also to Seabed 2030, for example. We've been providing since we were looking for the MH370, the Malaysia Airlines aircraft that disappeared. We've been providing data, bathymetric data to society. I think what is important to understand is that it's not a given. There's a lot of private companies with a lot of privately held data. But more importantly, there's also governments that hold a lot of data and that hold on to that data. And I think there's still some issues and some uncertainty and caution about sharing that data. And what we do together with UNESCO IFC, as co-chair of the data coordination group, we support private companies to actually contribute that data to society, to academics, but also to develop business cases. So we heard a few very nice speakers here, but I hope for Marcus we'll hear a lot more about the business case and the finance behind it. Because as a private company, we're obviously interested in that as well. Furthermore, maybe my call to action is support us in that journey, support us in supporting private companies to contribute their data. Also, please join us in the next panel in an hour from now, where we go and deep dive into a seagrass project that we're doing around Italy. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So it's my pleasure now to introduce Markus Müller. So Markus, Chief Investment Officer at Deutsche Bank. So please, floor is yours. Thank you so much.
So thank you very much for having me. And it's a little bit awkward to hear yourself, right, in such a situation. And secondly, it's awkward. I'm a banker, but I don't have slides. So you just have listened to my words, what I have been saying. And the Deutsche Bank journey begins with the ocean almost 4 years ago, when we have decided to join Ocean Risk Resilient Action Alliance. So one of the interdisciplinary ocean alliance we have on this planet. Together with Karen Sack, we then decided to become the bank lead partner. And why did we do this? Because a couple of years before this, we have started to assess the importance of nature for our own operations. Means for what we are doing at Deutsche Bank. We are financing the economy. And we said, if we are embedded as humans in an economy, and if the economy is embedded in a planet on which resources we are dependent, then it's obvious that we need to understand what risk occurs from the deterioration of the ecosystems which are providing these ecosystem services. But before we started to understand the entire connectivity between our balance sheet and nature, we said, let's focus on one habitat, which is already complicated enough, and this is the ocean. Because it was also in our understanding the most unrecognized important habitats on this planet, and we've heard already some reasons why it's so important to focus on it. And then a couple of years later, so more or less 1 year ago, we've decided to create a nature panel at Deutsche Bank, a nature advisory panel, which advises Deutsche Bank in order to incorporate nature metrics in its economic decision-making processes. And this is a result out of our engagement with Aura, because through Aura, we got more and more in touch with scientists, with people who really started to say why this economics of nature are so important also for the financial markets. 50% of global GDP is directly depending on nature. And so many people are dependent on the ocean, climate regulation, etc., etc. And through this, we have then understood that we have a need to complement our policies at Deutsche Bank. And we've just launched in September our new enhanced nature and ocean policy framework, where we as Deutsche Bank also have started to prohibit deep sea mining, because currently we can't assess its results. Of course, it might change in future when we have a better knowledge, but under current knowledge, we can't support this. And why is this so important for a bank? Because a bank is also a risk manager. We need to understand from which areas the risks are coming. And then thirdly, what we've done now is we partnered with, and it's not a competition, it's rather complementary, with SailGP. SailGP is similar but different to the ocean race, because we are just racing in the proximity to coastlines. And what our athletes are doing is we are taking water samples and we are doing their eDNA analysis in order then to bring it back on the one side into the communities with corporate sustainability education programs, to discuss with them why it's important that they keep their nature in check. And on the other side, it's important for us to understand what kind of potential economic activity has caused these problems in the water we have seen through our sampling, through our collaboration. And this then increases the awareness also on our side as bankers. And then we are suddenly understanding, well, the ocean is important to us. We are creatures of the edge. Without water, we won't survive. And just with water and without terrestrial habitats, we also won't survive. So we need to find the balance between the two. And no one is saying that we should not interact with the ocean. The question is only, how can we do this in a sustainable way? Because in the end, the ocean is macroeconomic essential as nature, and this is why we as a bank have an important role here to play in this understanding, because it's the money of our clients, it is the success of our clients, which is dependent on understanding these data in order to make informed economic and financial decisions. So just as a kind of tiny bit of how a bank thinks about it, and maybe we can dig deeper a little bit into this during the discussion. So thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much. So really inspiring to hear also this intervention about the sustainability and the investment that there are in order to give really a follow-up to this initiative. So it's my pleasure now to open up the discussion session. So I think in this interest of time, we would allow for questions. So we would be happy to interact with the audience with questions. I will start with a question to the whole panel, just to warm up. So if I would be happy if each one of you can tell me one particular challenge that the other panelists can help you with tackle. One challenge that you see that from what you hear from the other panelists, this is something that it's achievable. It's among the low-hanging fruit, because we know that joining forces together is possible to go for this low-hanging fruit. So I would start from you. There's a mic. Make sure that the mic.
Hello. Yeah, it's working.
It's working.
Okay. Thank you so much. My question will be to Marx, because I like the idea you just mentioned now about the mineral resources and exploration, because this is a target in developing countries like Africa, and we are looking forward for this, for invest more and take the benefit from this as a blue economy resource. But at the same time, we all know that this may cause risks, because we don't have a clear idea about the environment there. And to be satisfied with that, we are found this is a must for more observations, and this is what we are looking forward to have, this network, global networks for ocean observation, and deep sea observations is a must now with the eDNA and DNA studies. This will be very important, because we cannot manage what we cannot measure. So we need to have the measurements and the information with the database, so we could build upon it and to use it as a resource after a while. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan. I love something that Marcus said earlier. He said we are risk manager. I think with climate change we are all sort of risk managers. It's a risk that we can't afford not to manage. So Totse, where is your words?
I also think that the risk management is super important, and what we're trying to do in when we make ocean observation and providing ocean knowledge is actually de-risking investments in the ocean technology. And from my point of view, I was very interesting to hear about the nature indexes that you were talking about, supporting businesses and. Let's try to find a partnership between science and businesses and finance, how we can find the right business solutions for private entities to contribute to ocean observing and ocean knowledge. Thank you.
Yes, and maybe this launch of businesses could be coordinated in order, what Susan was mentioning in terms of needs for observation can be also become, the guiding force for the business. Yeah, please go on, Robert.
Thank you very much. I agree. It's all about de-risking. That's, I think, the value of geodata in general and ocean observation data. One challenge that we see with a lot of our clients, governmental clients, is there's often money or funding for CAPEX, for putting out the buoys, putting out the measurements, but there's no funding for sustained operation of it. I think in our long history, we only have one project that's more than 20 years continuously measuring, that's Sea-Watch in Spain. But there's so many projects, and I can count probably 20 projects in the last 20 years that have stopped. Yeah. Whereas those buoys are still out there, they could be still working, but it's just the political will or the sustained financing that is not coming.
Absolutely, it's a great point. And for this reason, in that point, the UN SOF, the UN Sustained Observation Financial Facilities, is really designed for that. I mentioned that earlier. My colleague Markus Reipnik is here in COP and is really pledging. I mean, the pledges for UN SOF has reached now 200 million to sustain observations, because it cannot be a opportunity-based funding. It has to be a sustained funding. Yeah, please, Marcus.
Yeah, so on the one side, I think it is very clear what we have to do. So if you think about financial markets, what are we doing when we are buying equities or bonds and when we are selling it? We are assessing information in order to make a decision. So this is what we do every day when we leave the hotel to go to COP. Which way do we go? We need information in order to make the decision whether we take the shuttle bus or Bolt, right? But we don't use the information we need for making decision in the context of nature or the ocean. Yeah. Hence, as I'm the youngest of 4 at my home, I'm used to ask always 2 questions or demand 2 things or more. So I have 2 questions to the panelists. One is we need more data. So we as a bank, we need more data, but free.
Yeah.
Because if we are sure that we are talking here about a global common, we should not pay for it. It must be paid through the public finance structure, yes.
Absolutely.
But the user of the data should get the access to the data free. Otherwise, we are not talking about a common. We are then talking about a private good. And with the ocean, I'm not quite sure whether this accounts. So I think with Goose and with WMO, we have something to collaborate with. And then the greediness in me, the second question, but we talked about this already, is as we already identified that we are no competitors in the ocean race and Sail GP,
yeah.
I think there is something where we really can bridge the gap of ocean literacy with the communities. Because this is what we found out when we have joined Aura. We are talking in our ocean bubble. Yeah. But still the majority of the normal people, my sisters, my family, are not aware about the importance of the ocean. Yeah. So this is the task we jointly can do through sports, because sports yes. brings the ocean to us and us to the ocean. And this is a bridge we really should use in order to increase the awareness about it.
Great point. Awareness and visibility of the great effort. It's a way to it's a vehicle to for these messages to say we need more observations. We are trying to help. And look, you're watching a race, but at the same time there is a sensors that is collecting data for climate. So that's brilliant. I think those are really to be exploited channels.
And very quick to this, we have as a community as long challenges as we can't make until we can make an economic case out of it. Mm-hmm. We should not forget this. Yeah. It is nothing which is based on philanthropy. It is nothing what we do because we have too much time. It is we need to build an economic case for our societal prosperity trajectory. Yeah. If we can't do this, it will fail.
Absolutely. It's about win-win scenarios and co-benefits. We have to leverage those.
Thank you. Yeah, and echoing what you said there, because the ocean really has an awareness problem also in the COP scenario, I must say. So that's something that we can really hook arms in, because what's out of sight is out of mind, and the ocean is out of sight for most people. So we need to create that emotional connection. But the question I had to Susan, thanks for great words, talking about creating awareness. What would be very good is to make an effort to really explain, to the wider public, but especially to policymakers and politicians and parliament members around the world, what is the data that is most needed? Because I think it's something that has to be simplified, and let's invest in gathering this data. And then for Robert, and tagging along to what you said, is there a conflict between sharing data? I hear that only 3, 4, 5% of privately gathered data is shared. I mean, we are a private organization. We share all data we do, and maybe it would be interesting to hear Vladimir's view on that, how to make data even more shareable. And for you, Marcus, how can we inspire other organizations or educate them? Because I think you as a bank, the insurance industry, they see this as business, because you realize, as you said, 50% of the world GDP is dependent on nature. So all your investments are depending on nature. So you need to know for investment advice. But many corporations are not at that level. So that's something you can educate your investments in, I guess. Thank you.
That's a great point. And I think a forum like the World Economic Forum would be ideal to bring these messages. The ocean is a resource that we have to take care of. It's a concept that many people haven't grasped. One way to take care is to monitor its state, monitor the health of the ocean. So it's a great point. So it's now my pleasure to open up to the audience for questions. Is there somebody interested? Yeah, we have questions here. So yeah, you have the mic. Yeah.
I'm speaking because, Robert, Richard asked me to speak. And, basically, there is a big difference between planned economy and market economy.
Could I ask if you could introduce
I'm
yourself?
Vladimir Rybinin, Executive Secretary of IOC in the past.
Yeah.
So, in the market economy, basically, you need to invent a tax, and then you can distribute this tax publicly. President Macron wanted to invent a tax in favor of climate, and in the end, he got yellow vests. So it's not very easy. So we have to find a way of organizing the activities, including the global ocean observing system activities, in a way that is so convincing, and also engage the private sector. That is an unsolved problem, indeed, Marcus. And I think there is a possibility of basically clarifying that $1 invested in global ocean observations returns $6 to private sector, and also how much it returns to government, nobody knows. So we haven't done this job, and I think we have to complete it, and then the things probably will magically change. But we have to do this.
So thank you, Vladimir, and I absolutely agree. The challenge we are facing here at COPS especially, or in the general discussion, is also that we are not clear about what is a goal, and then we are not clear about what is a tool to reach the goal. Let me just quickly take carbon credits. Carbon credits are not the tool for every problem we have. Carbon credits is, especially in the context of sovereign carbon credits, a tool for giving access to use a property which is not in your own belonging. Not more and not less. It is an exchange of property rights, full stop. It is not a money machine or to monetize nature. So for this tool is correct. But can we use carbon credits for biodiversity protection? No, because biodiversity functions completely different. I also can't finance with a bond equity, and with the equity a liability, right? So we need to get clear about what is a tool, and then what is a goal, and then defining the goal. If it's a public good, like you described, right?
There's a follow-up questions there.
If it's a public good,
yes,
as you described, we need to define who governs it. And we know this from Elinor Ostrom, the Nobel laureate. She said, it's not the problem of the common, of the ocean, that the ocean is wrecked. It is a problem of the governance. And we face this in so many areas. Yes. And if we have solved this, we also will find the tool, and then we can solve the goal. But this I expect really also from the international institutions, from our sovereign bodies, to give us private institutions guidance on this, because we can't define the things by ourselves.
And also continuing in the same vein, because you, Richard, asked the two questions. And the first question was about how private companies are happy to share data. We have Robert, that's why I had slip of the tongue. It's Fugro. Fugro is the ultimate leader in opening the data. And we are working with Fugro and several other companies, I think around 8 companies that are now part of this special data sharing working group under the Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, changing the paradigm, changing the mindset, and also identifying benefits of sharing the data, opening the data, rather than sitting on the data.
That's a great point. And yes, please.
Sorry, just to respond to a few things that were said. I think what's important to understand with sharing is that you're not losing ownership. That's an important aspect. Also, sharing doesn't mean that you have to disclose everything to everyone. And I think that's the type of discussions we're having with private companies, but again, also with governments, because governments are holding a lot of data more. I mean, we don't own data. We collect data for other entities, and most of those entities are governments. Sometimes it is commercial sensitive, certainly with offshore wind farms, but then still parts of the data can be provided. And then maybe just one more thing, and I'll make an advertisement again for the next panel. But I think what the Italian government did with the post-COVID funding, 400 million contributing to their ecosystem restoration, coastal ecosystem restoration, with projects that are enduring ocean observations as well, or Mediterranean observations in this case, I think is a example of what you could say the investment of a company in a wider ocean observation system.
That's great. There's another question here, please. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Palinda from Sri Lanka. I actually represent a distillery in the country, a small distillery. How we go into ocean is that sea, sand, sun goes with rum, and then rum is the marine Poseidon for, in case of, I represent the CSR. So that is the area where we concern. Now, regarding Marcus, we've been also working with Deutsche Bank to remove marine ghost nets. You've been supporting really well through the bank. That's not the question which I'm going to answer. We've been collaborating. So collaboration is also a key part in getting all the things aground. I have a request. If there is possibilities to come to developing countries through Ocean X, no, not Ocean X, Ocean Race, we'll be really happy to, because sometimes the developing countries do not have the financial capabilities to work on these kind of research. And then we even don't know our marine resources, unfortunately. There is a lot, maybe in African continent, maybe in Asian continent, where they have resources, but they don't know the species, they don't know the ecosystems, they don't know the value which can be given to the communities. So understanding that might help a lot, where corporates can also collaborate partially to give in benefits. And then that might also, as he mentioned, giving 1% might give you in return 6%. You never know, just a solution.
Yes, there's great value, and this value needs to be shared with developing country. And
and yeah, we would love to come to Sri Lanka, and we really, the Ocean Race is an exploration, so we connect continents, we connect countries, and as a sailor you love to come to new places, so that's really, and then as a sailor we love rum, of course, and rum, it's water, isn't it? It's probably 95% water, and something else as well, but yeah, so we're good on that.
We have one last question, and then we will close the session, please.
Yeah, I have a question probably for Marcus. My name is Oliver Marchand. I work in climate research for MSCI. And so I think we have sort of we have a dilemma here that in capital markets, I think the oceans are also kind of a non-topic, to be honest. If you look at any like ESG ratings model of any provider, the ocean is not. And the problem I have is I would like the ocean to be more part of our product, but I fail to see what is called a transmission channel, a really an economic link because of the risks of the ocean and the stock market. And my question is, which is the first thing that I need to tackle in our models?
Yeah, so in the end, it's about value chains, right? We need to decompose our value chains. And if we think about the entire nature market failure we are facing, it is about that through the industrialization, we have lost sight about the value chains. They are getting too long, too intertwined, so we do not know at the end anymore what we have done at the beginning in order to get the product at the end out. If so we have now two possibilities. Either we dial back industrialization and we go all back to our farms, but I assume no one wants this. But we need to get, in the second alternative, back the information we had 200 years ago about our own activity, what they're causing. What does it mean? We need to use technology, data technology, in order to get the information alongside the value chain that we can make at every step of the value chain the right decisions. And if we have this possibility, if the companies are knowing that this is needed in order to manage their risk alongside their own value chains, then you will see that the data is also reflected, or the potential meaning of the data is reflected in the stock market. Look at a study of London School of Economics about the potential negative effects of climate litigation on stock returns. More or less 1% of excess return is eaten up by this. What does it mean? You can earn the same amount of money with 10-year treasuries. You do not have to go into the stock market because the climate is eating up these outperformance. Yeah. So, and this shows exactly what we mean. But we just know this because we have the data. So I really urge the world, the companies getting a handle on their value chains and understanding them, because then we get the data and then it will be also priced in. But currently it's a market failure and it's not priced in correctly.
Yes, so we need, I think, a common theme, a fil rouge of the panel is really data accessibility, data availability, their sustainability over time, so that we can really have climate data record for the ocean. And that will help, you know, when you look at the stock market, you always look at a record of that stock market to base your decision. The same thing is needed for data. We need long sustainable data records, because that's really transfer the data into information and the information into knowledge, and you know, with a market that can exploit that. It's been a great pleasure to you know, to chair this panel. I wish to ask the audience to join me with a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you very much.
Very lucky to be sailors competing in a sport doing something we love, but it's also very meaningful to make a real contribution. On 11th Hour Racing we carried the Ocean Pack, which is monitoring sea surface temperature, salinity, CO2 content, and all this can then get verified and put back into the data models and contribute to climate monitoring. It's something very tangible that we can contribute.
We sail in some of the very remote oceans in the world. We're going to be deploying 2 drifter buoys from Malizia Sea Explorer. Now these buoys, they drift along the surface, a bit different to the Argo float, which will sink down up to 2,000 meters. These will stay on the surface and they'll measure very similar things, the temperature, salinity, and also the ocean currents, but only at the surface of the ocean. It's extremely valuable and useful to scientists that in the ocean race we can deploy these buoys as we do these races.
So today is a special day for us on Biosderm as well. We're going to deploy our second weather buoy. And these buoys are really important for climate science. This is where we feel really useful on board Biosderm and the ocean race in general, because we are in an area where there's pretty much nobody. There's not even any cargo ships.
Geo and Wholesome are collecting microplastic samples from the water. Those samples are sent to us at the end of every leg, and I am analyzing how many microplastics are in each sample and then what types of plastics we're finding. Microplastics pose a large threat to ocean ecosystems, both the biota that live in the ecosystems, but also to human health. We eat the fish and the oysters and everything from the ocean, and so all these microplastics are available for organisms to ingest, which could then impact our health as well. We're able to collect a huge number of samples to get a snapshot of the global amount of microplastics in the ocean for 2023.
So knowing about the plastic distribution in the ocean, the quantities of those plastics, specifically what they are chemically, polymer-wise, will help us to understand the potential threats of those plastic contaminants and how we can battle them in the future. It will also help us to develop solutions and strategies for managing plastic waste that we're currently generating.
So I've got to change the filters in here with the new one. I have to make sure the swap over as quick as possible so it does not contaminate.
The data we get from our science box and from measuring the microplastics is very useful data for us to get for the scientists, because again, not many people are down there, not many people get to measure the water, and you know, if we see a high level of microplastics that far away from man, the furthest away you can be on the planet, then we kind of can see how much damage we're doing. It can then be used by scientists and go straight into helping to derive policies and to really push for policy change at a top level. So I think it's vital information, and it's fantastic that they've managed to develop something that can be on our boats, that can withstand our boats.
This global data set will allow us to better understand the state of ocean plastic pollution so we can work together towards solutions.